commodity in Jake Bentley. What does it look like for the future? A lot of these spring games and practices are built developmentally. You want to see what your depth looks like. That position will garner a lot of attention today.
Will Tommy kicking off. Trey Atkins back to receive, goes into the end zone. And some different rules here in this, as it is return, I should say. This is a different sort of rules here in this spring game. These can fluctuate as the game goes on.
Yeah, the coaches always reserve the right to make changes as necessary, extend drives. We are going to see at the end of both halves 1 minute drill opportunities for the offenses so that they can get some situational football in there. As we mentioned, makes sense to see number 18 or 19 rather running out there again for South Carolina. A guy that actually thought about making the jump to the pros and came back for his senior season. And there's, of course, a lot of statistics and production coming back.
Started 32 of the last 33 games, Jake Bentley, as he scampers up the middle again wearing the yellow non-contact jerseys. Coaches talked about and considered having the backup quarterbacks live here in this game, but there was a practice recently where they decided, you know what, let's the risk reward is too great.
You want to throw a bone to those defenders too. See if you can't keep those guys interested.
Andricus Davis with the reception. R.J. Roderick on the tackle. You'll notice the tempo is something South Carolina is going to focus on. As Jake Bentley over the middle, that's Keel Pollard, the tight end, with a big gain of 19 near midfield, and the offense up and running again.
Yeah, something that when now second year offensive coordinator and play caller Brian McClendon wanted to emphasize. It's something that Coach Muschamp recognizes as an opportunity for an offense.
That pass out in the flat to A.J. Turner. A.J. Turner, a guy who, as he picks up 6 yards, is going to play running back here in the first half, and defensive back in the second half. Was thrown kind of right into the fire in that Belk Bowl out of necessity, playing defensive back. He says he's willing to play both ways and hopes he does this year.
Well, A.J. Turner, I think, is Will Muschamp's favorite player. Now, he don't want to come out and say that, but he's a great contributor in special teams, has done an excellent job in spot duty at running back, and here's a double pass.
That's Josh Vann, the receiver, and he's got a man wide open at the 30. That is the aforementioned A.J. Turner, who is hit and quote-unquote tackled at the 25-yard line. That's Jamias Williams, who made that hit, or touch, I should say, for a 22-yard gain. And Jamias Williams is in non-contact today, nursing a shoulder injury, so he's not going to be required to tackle anybody.
Razzle-dazzle in here, and Jamias Williams, as you mentioned, they're in position to make that play as you take a look at Brian McClendon, who is an aggressive-minded play caller, a guy that wanted to be more vertical a season ago. When you look back to that Kentucky game, wasn't scared to get in some non-conventional offensive formations. A guy that's learning more and more the tempo type of approach. Spent time at the University of Georgia prior to coming to South Carolina, and Dan Werner, the quarterback's coach, also introducing some of these tempo concepts.
Bentley, a little play action over the middle, and that pass falls incomplete. Chad Terrell with the incomplete pass. Terrell torn ACL last spring. Good to be back healthy this year. Bentley so far 3 of 4 for 29 yards. We're probably going to see just a couple of series here in this first half for Bentley, and then one in the second half, and then he's just going to put his feet up and help out his teammates.
They're making it easy for him. That one backwards pass, right? It's basically just a long handoff to Van earlier.
Third down for Bentley and the offense, and that pass nearly intercepted by Aaron Sterling as it falls to the turf. Aaron Sterling, the junior out of Atlanta, Georgia, did not play the final 5 games of last year as an ankle injury cut his season short. A lot of ankle injuries last season, a lot of nicks and bruises. We'll see him back healthy. This is a 40-yard field goal attempt for Parker White, who had a couple of big kicks last year. The game winner against Missouri, this one from 40. And the attempt is no good.
As you mentioned, Matt, a season ago, a really strange game, frankly, versus Missouri with this thunderstorm that popped up out of nowhere and really gave South Carolina a chance to scramble back in that game. And I think it was 3 for 3. Parker White contributing 9 crucial points. And then, of course, the walk-off 42-yarder, 2 of his 3 there in the second half. And couldn't have come at a better time for the Gamecocks in that one.
Joined the team a couple of years ago as a walk-on. 6 months ago today that he hit that game winner against Missouri. In at quarterback now is for South Carolina is Dakereon Joyner, the redshirt freshman who Brian McClendon, the offensive coordinator, said if he had come in last year, he would have been a fish out of water in terms of being one-dimensional. They say he's really improved his throwing ability, but now we see the leg aspect of his game.
Well, that was the element of the game that needed to evolve, no question. And we didn't see him late in the season either, which was a little bit curious given the fact that obviously you had Michael Scarnecchia available, started in that victory over Missouri, but opportunities to get him some playing time never really materialized.
That pass to Bailey Hart down the sideline. He did step out. Bailey Hart, the redshirt junior out of Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, converted from quarterback to wide receiver. A walk-on as he scampers down the sideline for a gain of 22.
And obviously the tempo early on in this game, able to move the football versus the defense. Some new faces on that defensive side of the football, the defensive line with more depth than they had a season ago, as you see great pressure coming off the edge that time by Enigbare, who last year had to kind of beef up, put on about 20 pounds as a true freshman, had to play inside, but his natural position is off the edge. And this is his sweet spot. He likes to be able to rush on the edge of that defensive front, wins almost right now, and right by Jordan Carty at left tackle.
Second down here. Dakereon Joyner rolls out, crosses the 40, and steps out of bounds around the 38-yard line, a gain of 7. And that'll bring up third down. You mentioned Enigbare, who had that, quote, hit and stop on the previous play for a loss of 6. You mentioned it came in as a defensive end, was a 225, moved to defensive tackle at 285, down to 255. Gaining and losing weight intentionally, unlike most of us. Here's the pass off the far side to Darius Rush for a gain of 8.
Poster child for yo-yo dieting. That's just not healthy, man.
All right, it's a spring game. Garnet and Black, 4th and 1. What are we doing, Matt Stitchko?
Well, you go for it.
Okay.
Right? No, I don't think that we're worried about possessions in this game, are you?
Joyner with the handoff up the middle to Kevin Harris. Kevin Harris picks up the first down, and speaking of folks associated with the program, they're interested to see what Kevin Harris can bring to this offense.
And it's runs just like that one. When you think of a season ago, Mon Denson early on was more of the short yardage back. His role expanded as the season unfolded. But Harris is the guy that opposite Rico Dowdle, who we will not see here today, is a guy that can bring a different element to the offensive backfield. A bit more of a thumper and a physical nature to his running style. And you can see he's put together pretty nicely.
5'10", 235-pound freshman out of Hinesville, Georgia. Here's Joyner rolling out, fires and completes for the first down. And that's Bailey Hart once again. Drew a big hit there from the defensive back. There for South Carolina. No, that's incomplete. Dropped and incomplete.
Well, this is something that the coaches talked about. As Jamel Cook came up and hammered Bailey Hart, getting that football off of the would-be receiver. Early on in spring practices, the coaches were very pleased with the way the defense was performing and getting takeaways, forcing incompletions, and its physical interaction right there at the end of the throws that can do that.
Third down for Joyner and this offense as he Scampers around the near side, and we'll see where they mark him out. It appears he'll be just, well, no, he'll get that first down. That's Jordan Villafane who forced him out. But a first down here into the red zone here for South Carolina. And again, it was Jake Bentley who had some red zone interceptions last year, but red zone offense is going to be an emphasis here for the Gamecocks, especially coming up this season. Not necessarily today, but it's good to see if they can perform.
Well, obviously these coaches, they want it to happen organically, right? Move the football down the field. They want their quarterbacks to make excellent decisions when you're in scoring position. And these red zone opportunities are ones that you have to capitalize on versus kicking field goals or turning it over, which they saw far too many times in the 2018 game.
No gain there. Deshaun Fenwick, the redshirt freshman out of Bradenton, Florida. You saw a couple of guys there on the tackle, Joseph Anderson. Rick Sandage, who's a sophomore, who was thrust into action as a freshman along that defensive front. Will Muschamp talking about just getting that experience last year for these guys on that front four.
And the challenge for young guys, especially along the lines of scrimmage, is if you're thrown in there early, it's easy to slip into survival mode. You're not thinking technique, you're just trying to make it through 4 quarters. And those guys, because of depth issues, Sandage and Enigbare both, they were able to push through the slate of games.
Joyner on second down, that's off the hands of the intended receiver, Jay Urich, and nearly intercepted. Probably should have been intercepted there by Jordan Villafane.
We talked about getting the ball off of receivers, but when you've got a chance like that to turn the football over, and especially as we were just hitting on a red zone possession, from a defensive perspective, it doesn't get any better than that. And you think back to 2 seasons ago, this South Carolina defense lived on red zone defensive stops.
Third down here for Joyner. Joyner over the middle, and this pass nearly intercepted again, knocked down by Jamel Cook. Jamel Cook getting your first look at Cook, the transfer from USC, Southern California, who was sitting out last year after the transfer.
2 nice plays by Jamel Cook. As you see, hands up right in the face of the Kerryon Joyner. Did a good job there disrupting the eyes of the quarterback by Joseph Anderson, and Jamel Cook with a couple of breakups.
Parker White from 32 yards was no good from 40 minutes ago. This one from 32, and this one is good. So we got some points in the spring game. Black leads Garnet 3-0 back in Columbia after this. Coming up next, Spring Football Saturday continues right here on SEC Network with 2 more games. We'll have the LSU spring game, and then we'll wrap it up with Ole Miss's Grove Bowl in Oxford. Remember, both are streaming live on the ESPN app, so you can watch anywhere. We mentioned the stories of today, usually in most spring games, is at the quarterback position and not necessarily at the starting position. The fight for that backup job is on, and Ryan Helinski believes he is the man for the job. You see his ESPN 300 ranked, highly rated, highly hyped prospect, and they like what they've seen so far from this early enrollee. Helinski, near side pass to A.J. Turner for a gain of 2 as tempo continues here. J.T. eBay on the tackle.
We saw the Kerryon Joyner first, but we're seeing Helinski out here with a lot of starters here in the 3rd offensive possession.
Andricus Davis on the reception for a gain of 5. Think about the recruitment of Ryan Helinski out of Orange, California, just for the perception of the program to go into California and get a kid like Ryan Helinski to come in here. They love his arm talent. Gets it out quickly. That one over the middle to the 45, but to Davis yet again, and that'll be a first down.
You think about the distinction between the 2 potential backup quarterbacks, and we saw Joyner with, I believe, 4 runs effectively on some rollouts, tucking the ball, running it on the edge. But Helinski is a guy that's going to spend more time in the pocket. This is a guy that was thought to be among the best from a quote-unquote pro-style approach at the quarterback spot. They are impressed so far. True freshman coming in here, able to compete in the spring game. And a guy that in a tempo offense, they feel could probably grow in this role and stretching the football vertically downfield in the passing game.
4 of 4 passing so far for 15 yards. Here's Helinski out wide to his intended receiver, Josh Van, for a first down. Down to the 40. Josh Van, the sophomore out of Tucker. That's a gain of 9. Tucker High School in Georgia. He was a number 4 wideout last year. A couple of drops in that bowl game that are still in the back of his mind. But nice reception there as he looks forward to a strong 2019. Here's Helinski. Little play fake over the middle. That's complete. Keel Pollard for the first down. Seeing the tight ends here get in action as well. Casey Crosby's gone. Jacob August is gone. But Kyle Markway and Keel Pollard showing some stuff at tight end.
This is an impressive play. And a lot of folks would look at it and think, well, what are we seeing here? Well, it's a right-handed quarterback with a short rollout, throwing against his body and hitting Keel Pollard right on his hip. Didn't have to stop and turn around for that football.
6 of 6, make it 7 of 7. That's Shi Smith for a minimal gain.
Look at the wide receiver spot for South Carolina. Is there a sizable hole that's about the shape of a Deebo Samuel? No doubt. And the statistics are even larger. So that vacancy is one that's going to have to be filled by the Josh Vans and the Shi Smiths of this world to complement Brian Edwards on the outside.
Chad Terrell, again coming off that ACL injury last spring. You look at the wide receivers and the depth chart there. Pretty deep with Brian Edwards, who's on the verge of some school records as well. Decided to come back for his senior season. Shi Smith, Travis Dawkins, mentioned Davis, who's caught a few balls here today. Bailey Hart. And there's going to be some more coming up in the summer. Hoping to add some depth there as well. John Dixon, Xavier Leggett. Get them some looks as Helinski goes to the end zone. That one overthrown, intended for Josh Van.
Some other big sizable guys. Ortre Smith right there at the top of the list. Sophomore, missed time a season ago. Big physical target outside and wide receiver with length. We talked about the red zone and their difficulties there. We've already seen Josh Van a couple of different times, and he documented had some difficulty completing some of these receptions. Balls hitting his hands, opportunities to come up with catches, wasn't always able to do it.
Parker White from 40 missed on his first attempt from 40 and misses on the second 40-yard field goal attempt. He's 1 of 3 on field goals so far here in the Garnet and Black spring game. Timeout on the field, 3-zip here in the first. Just a short time away where that man will likely hear his name called fairly early. Deebo Samuel, one of the greats to play here in South Carolina. Great weapon on offense and on special teams. Projected to be selected late first, early second. Saw 11 touchdowns in 2014. SEC record, 4 kickoff returns for a touchdown as well. And certainly a void to fill this year.
Well, you mentioned it. It's not just an offensive playmaker. He's a guy you can hand it to, you run it downfield, you kick it to him, it's your own duress. I mean, you're talking about a guy that can change the game multiple ways. Think back to that Ole Miss game, 90-yard touchdown run to set the tone for that victory for South Carolina on the road.
All right, Helinski's still in at quarterback for South Carolina. Fires over the middle toward the sideline. That's Bailey Hart, takes a hit, holds on to the football. Gain of 11 for a first down. Helinski looking sharp early with his public debut for the Gamecock faithful.
He's been in there for 10 plays. We've seen 10 passes. Obviously, they want to see what they've got. And Ryan Helinski as a passer. A lot of these horizontal, though, quick throws out to the perimeter. It's like a long handoff.
And that one complete to Jay Urich, who is listed as a quarterback, but they're going to throw him out there at wide receiver today. Based on his ability. They talk about just how unselfish he is. The redshirt sophomore out of Greenville, South Carolina.
A couple of targets. Now would have been 3 targets for Urich out there, but Villafane doing a good job getting his hands up in the passing lane. The second or third time we've seen defenders doing a good job, especially when you're talking about box players, linebackers, defensive linemen. Time Villafane was the one that was able to get his hands up, bringing some of that edge pressure and getting in the passing lane.
3rd down and 6 here for Ryan Helinski and this South Carolina offense. Looking left, looking downfield, and that one is bobbled and incomplete, intended for Bailey Hart. A couple incompletions here on this drive for Ryan Helinski, a little bit behind the intended receiver. Well, Ryan Helinski showing off a little bit of that arm talent here in the first quarter. Black with a 3-0 lead over Garnet. Matt Schick, Matt Stinchcomb here with you on SEC Network. Second quarter coming up. We're gonna chat with Will Muschamp down in the field with Taylor Davis. Taylor?
Coach, you're getting the opportunity to see your guys compete, which has been an emphasis of yours this spring. How have you seen that so far?
Well, I've been very pleased. You know, we want to really throw the ball a lot and give Ryan and to carry on opportunities to throw the football. We're going to limit Jake's snaps, but been pleased so far. We still got a lot of ball to play.
For these younger guys, today is a great learning experience. What more do you want to see from them?
Well, we learn a lot about how they respond in front of our crowd and first time at Williams-Brice Stadium. So there's a lot of things that we'll learn as a staff today moving forward on all of our players.
All right, thank you, Coach.
All right.
We'll hear from Will Muschamp a few times throughout the spring game today. It's 3-0. More on Ryan Helinski and the quarterback straight ahead. South Carolina spring game. South Carolina leads South Carolina 3-0 here as we begin the second quarter. Matt Schick along with Matt Stinchcomb. Taylor Davis down on the field. Ryan Helinski so far 10 of 13 passing, 57 yards. This is a 4th down and 6 opportunity. No reason to punt.
Coaches staying aggressive in this one. I think they like their chances of victory.
Risk reward. If you go for it, you maintain possession. If you fall short, you maintain possession.
So it's quite the limb to crawl out on.
Here's Helinski. 4th down and 6. Defender in his face, and that one incomplete. Evan Hinson, the intended receiver. As the defender was right in Helinski's face and had to hold up on the hit as he is wearing that yellow jersey. Tomorrow at 6 Eastern, 5 Central, we'll have the second game of the big 3-game series between number 14 Auburn and number 7 Tennessee at Sherry Parker Lee Stadium in Knoxville. SEC softball also available on the ESPN app, so you can watch anywhere. The ball still at the 50. Black team takes over to carry on Joyner, redshirt freshman out of North Charleston, South Carolina, with another opportunity, but he hands it off. That one to Kevin Harris. There is a flag on the field. Kevin Harris picking up close to a 1st down, but we'll see what the marker is.
Kevin Harris, 39 on the carry. Opening,
it's on Javon Gwynn as we're calling numbers on penalties in a spring game. That's harsh.
Never thought that was necessary. I mean, if the pass interference, maybe, but a holding call, you don't need to know what's going to be.
Spoken by a true offensive lineman.
That was a great run. I didn't see anything there on the edge.
Did you ever have holding penalties in your spring games?
God, I don't bother to remember that sort of thing, Matt. I do know that South Carolina rebuilding that offensive front. You think of that, the left side.
Yeah.
You got a Zach Bailey, who really versatile player. Guy that was injured, obviously, in the additional game versus Akron. That's the side of the line that they're going to try to rebuild. We see Cedarius Hutcherson, who spent a lot of time at guard, at left tackle now. He is a physical football player, but an athlete as well. Interesting to see how they incorporate him in the running game. Pulls well in space. Or will they trap with the tackle at times? How will they utilize his skill set to the best of his abilities?
And there's Cedarius Hutcherson. Only at guard and has been working out this spring at offensive tackle. Kevin Harris on the short run. Nice tackle there from Aaron Sterling.
Think of the defenders on the defensive side of the ball. We've called Aaron Sterling's name a couple of different times. They're going to need guys to step up. You think of the 5 Carolina Gamecocks that were invited to the Combine, Bryson Allen Williams among them. And he was kind of the catalyst for the defense for years. Could rush off the edge, could play in space. We see Joyner again.
In space. That'll be a first down.
Joyner on the carry. Up to the 36-yard line.
It's a familiar refrain from the first possession where we saw Joyner in there. Tucking and running on the edge and move the pocket. They like to get him outside. He has that option.
3rd and 14, picks up 18. And a first down here for Dakereon Joyner. Joyner, a little pump fake, throws over the middle. That one incomplete. Chad Terrell drops that one, the redshirt sophomore.
Look at the Carolina secondary. And the faces, we already mentioned Jamias Williams, who beaten out for all intents and purposes at nickelback from a season ago. See Joyner trying to go down the sideline deep.
That defensive back who is in pursuit, Israel Mukwamu, he's got certainly NFL potential. 6'4" corner, says I'll play safety if you want me to, but Will Muschamp has said he's a corner. Then you combine him with J.C. Horn. That's a defensive backfield, specifically on the edges, that they believe can shut offenses down.
And some competitive guys.
Yeah.
Really close off the field. They stick together. They want to be on the field as a tandem and an opportunity to step up. You think Rashad Fenton, who was a stalwart defensive back here for South Carolina, another near interception should have been by R.J. Roderick, a guy who's picked up numerous starts there towards the middle of the season.
Officials timeout.
You see Roderick. He's banging out some push-ups,
You got
man.
to. It's you know what? That's team leadership right there. That's accountability in your locker room. There's a player being helped up. That's Donnell Stanley, offensive lineman, projected starter, 5th-year senior, actually recruited by the old regime. Steve Spurrier, one of those holdovers. A handful of those still left on the roster as he limps off.
That's a guy that, look, one of the boxes that you have to be able to check at the end of your spring practice is that your top guys are healthy. You want everybody to be healthy, but for sure, Donnell Stanley, a guy that they are counting on in the middle of that offensive front, was playing some guard early on in this contest, so it'll make way for Eric Douglas at center.
Oh, what a great throw there from Joyner to Keel Pollard. Again, the tight end with a couple of receptions, and they're once again in the red zone, a gain of 25 yards. The coaches said Joyner just looks more comfortable. He's more adept at passing the football. We've seen that here in this first half.
Nice clean pocket to work from. And we're looking to move anything. He's able to set his feet. This is a well-placed football. Doesn't get any prettier than that. And Keel Pollard, who's showing up in this game early, not only as a receiver, but a couple of nice blocks in space.
Senior out of Georgia, and there's Dakereon Joyner again. Will they call that a touchdown or call him just shy? Let's see.
See, this is where the quarterbacks say, oh, come on. Take the yellow jersey off me. I still score on that one.
Down at the 5-yard line. Gain of 6, 2nd down and 4. That's called very simple math. 3-0. Team Black, handoff up the middle, stopped right at the line, maybe a gain of 2. Ernest Jones, they're on that physical tackle. Ernest Jones just thrilled to be back out onto the field. Missed spring last year, had a fractured back. Could have redshirted, but Ernest Jones decided to play in that 5th game, which happened to be the bowl game in the Belk Bowl. Said, I came here to play football, and he did. Gave up a season of eligibility because of that mindset, but that's the kind of mindset this team wants.
That's exactly right. You talk about this team and the culture that Coach Muschamp and his staff has been able to build, and Ernest Jones is a guy I think that personifies that. And perhaps he's playing in relief of T.J. Brunson, another guy who I think embodies those type of virtues.
3rd down and goal, and they give him the touchdown. Kevin Harris, the freshman, into the end zone for the score and our first touchdown of the spring game.
See Kevin Harris, he's been in the weight room a little bit, huh? He's got some biceps on him. Able to muscle his way into the end zone. First score, we'll call it, somewhat unofficially since it's against themselves in his Gamecock career. As we mentioned, a lot of eyes on the backup quarterback spot, but also, Tyson Williams, no longer available, exhausting his eligibility. Who is going to be the complementary backs, even to Rico Dowdle and Mon Denson? Harris getting a couple early looks.
Parker White with the point after. 11 plays, 50 yards, a 4-minute drive. We got our first touchdown, 7-3. Back here with the South Carolina spring game, and there's a sight you won't see much of this season. Brian Edwards standing on the sideline while the offense is out on the field. He's about to break some records this year in his final season as a Gamecock.
You want number 89 on the field as much as possible. A little bit slowed by injury last year, but was able to tough it out, gut it out. He's a physical receiver. He's got speed enough to get behind coverage. Look at the concentration that he's able to demonstrate. One-handed circus catch. Debo Samuel did a bunch of those one-handers in the end zone, stabbing it out of the air. 89 not to be outdone by Samuel, who's making the jump to the NFL, and those numbers are really close. The productivity from wide receiver is not going to be much of a question mark this season.
Just going to hand off to Fenwick, put a bow on the Brian Edwards conversation. He's on a pass in 38 straight games. That's 5 shy of the school record. He's 44 receptions away from the school record, 813 yards shy of the career yardage record, and 7 receiving touchdowns shy of the school record as well. Asked him why did you decide to come back. Said he wants some of those records. And he also wanted to be a part of that come back for his senior season, and also Zielinski misfires deep. That pass intended for Shi Smith on a deep ball. Be a part of his senior year and also get to see the new facility and be a part of that as well, which we got to see yesterday.
That's a great point. You don't want to leave right as the new house gets completed, right? Check out
the Long Family Football Operations Center, $50 million. We'll show some pictures of that later. We got a tour of that yesterday, but yeah, you don't want to leave, and then whenever you come back, you need a tour.
That's right. That's a great point.
You don't know where you're going.
Yeah, I saw him pour the footings, and then I just left. We'll be able to move into that joker. Plus, he probably wants to lay down a couple of tracks in the Darius Rucker recording studio.
You call it a joker? Is that what you say sometimes?
I do. Occasionally.
With the tackle, that pass caught by Bailey Hart. Good for a first down as Zielinski remains there at quarterback. And Ryan Zielinski, number 4 quarterback in the ESPN 300, number 66 overall out of California. That one a little fade pattern down the right sideline. That one's caught by Darius Rush. Nice little touch on the ball and a nice toss from Zielinski. That's a gain of 25.
You see some of these younger receivers, guys that weren't as prominent a season ago. It's an opportunity to build rapport with what could be the quarterback of the future. And Zielinski not only demonstrating some arm strength, some nice zip on especially these throws immediately to the sideline, but on that previous back shoulder.
A 7 on the tackle. That one to Jay Urich. Of course, Ryan Zielinski, the brother of the late Tyler Zielinski, who tragically took his life there when he was a quarterback at Washington State. The story's well documented. A great story. Tragic. Great story on ESPN, college game there with Ivan Maisel and the family. The family relocated to South Carolina. Just start over and be with their other son, Ryan, and just a tremendous quarterback and an incredible family as Zielinski under duress there. Jay Urich with the reception, gain of a few yards. As you saw Zay Brown there on the coverage.
Undoubtedly. You mentioned a tragic, compelling story, and specific to Ryan, a guy that's got an opportunity even from a family standpoint, fresh start, move all the way across the country, see a new program, comes from a family of quarterbacks. Brother Kelly played quarterback as well, collegiately.
And you'll be looking for an E60 story on the family, as parents, of course, here and taking part in a story that'll be on E60. Coming up within the next few weeks or so. I don't know exactly when that will air, but you saw the crew setting up shop there in the Long Family Center yesterday.
Ryan certainly getting an opportunity.
Yeah, and he's looked sharp. Look, for a guy who's an early enrollee, just think about it. He's gone through 15 practices, and here's the the finished product for spring. Let's get that one batted in the air. That one by Joseph Anderson there at the defensive line.
Joseph Anderson, another freshman, able to get his hands up in the throwing lane. But as you mentioned, it's clear, and Coach Muschamp talked about this. He wants to see these backup quarterbacks unwind these arms. Let's see him throw a little bit. Right now, Helinski 15 of 21, 108 yards. We've seen him stretch it downfield, throwing a couple of nice balls over the middle. He's been well placed on some of these long handoff type throws where you just move the line of scrimmage to the sidelines. But so far has looked comfortable out there.
Helinski misfires there just off the fingertips of Deshaun Fenwick. They're inside the 10-yard line, a turnover on downs. Let's send it down to Taylor Davis as a special guest here. Taylor?
A very special guest and a very familiar face to Gamecock fans, Marcus Lattimore. You're getting a chance to see this year's team. What's impressing you so far?
Well, the freshmen who came in have been working so hard, over January, February, throughout our spring practice and winter workout. So it's just good to see all of that manifest, because you can really get frustrated if you don't see the fruits of your labor come to fruition. Right. So I'm excited for the young guys, and it's been pretty good.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for them. Now, you are now the director of player development, so you are still very involved with this program. What differences are you seeing this year versus last year?
Okay, you know what? It's funny that you asked that, because this offseason we had a focus on being more stable and being more accountable, and our leaders have stepped up in a tremendous way. Our guys who are probably not getting any possessions today because of who they are, and it's just been good to see them step up, because they do have influence in the locker room. And the guys follow that, and that spirit is contagious, and it's going to help us this season.
Now, you know that as well as anybody, and you know what it takes to compete in a conference like the SEC. What does South Carolina have to do this year to find success?
Not beat ourselves. Okay. Our biggest opponent last year was us. And we've been addressing those issues this offseason, and our leaders have stepped up, like I said. And guys are buying in. And Coach Muschamp, his blueprint, it works, because he's won a national championship, so we're going to follow that.
And another change that I have to ask you about, that new facility. Man, are you a little jealous you didn't have it when you were a player?
Jeez, so all the alumni over there, when they see it, they're going to be jealous. Every day is just a blessing to be able to walk in there. It really is, because it was built off a lot of hard work of a lot of players who's come through this program, and they get to enjoy it. But that's what college football is all about, and I'm excited for the future.
Now, I'm a little bummed I didn't get to see you play in the alumni game before this. You told me your knees couldn't take it anymore. But do days like today bring back any good memories for you?
They bring back a lot of memories, especially being with my guys, the guys that I played with. But also, I've had some good memories on this field, scoring a lot of touchdowns and just playing the game that I love. And it's forever a part of me in this state, and these fans coming out today on this beautiful day. It brings back a lot of memories, and I'm thankful that I got to play in this stadium.
Absolutely, and it was fun to watch you. All right, go enjoy the rest of the game.
I appreciate it. Have a good day.
Thanks to Marcus Lattimore for the time. Great player, great ambassador, and it's great to have him involved, certainly, with South Carolina. The punt from Joseph Charlton. Josh Vann returns it 7-6, 7-3. Garnet over the black here in the second. Tomorrow, noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, we'll have the big series finale between number 4 Vanderbilt and number 7 Georgia at Foley Field in Athens. SEC baseball also available on the ESPN app, so you can watch anywhere. Matt Schick, Matt Stinchcomb, Taylor Davis down on the field here, the Garnet and Black South Carolina spring football game.
How about this conference? Is this just a football conference?
A lot of numbers next to names of schools in other sports as well. That happens a lot.
And I think there's a team in the Final Four from the SEC.
I think you're right.
That had to beat another team in the Elite Eight.
A team that you did not have in your Final Four in your bracket, so well done.
I never showed you my bracket. You're just assuming.
Your bracket is on the way to the recycling center. There's a shot at Jake Bentley, of course, going into his senior season as DeCarrion Joyner is back in at quarterback here in the spring game. Nice pass over the middle, but incomplete and dropped by Bailey Hart. Heard in that interview from Lattimore, and Taylor Davis talking to him, said, what do we need to do to be successful this year? Lattimore's answer was not hurt ourselves. Don't beat ourselves. We are our own worst enemy. 14 picks last year from Bentley. That was the third most among all Power 5 quarterbacks. 6 red zone interceptions, 8 turnovers in the red zone overall with a couple of fumbles as well. That has got to curb this season.
That has to change. And I think that message was largely received by Jake Bentley. Keep in mind, it was a transition at coordinator and a more aggressive mindset. And Jake Bentley is an aggressive-minded quarterback, a guy that's not scared to take risks. And I think really the turning point was the loss to Kentucky and an injury at the end of the game to Jake Bentley, but also the turnovers, the interceptions in that game. It undid the opportunity for South Carolina to win versus one of the better teams in the East. Came back versus A&M after sitting out that Missouri game and was still kind of pressing and probably definitely compromised South Carolina's chances to win that game. But he got away from it, reined it in, played much better down the stretch. That's what they need to see out of Jake Bentley.
That would complete to Bailey Hart, who's down the sideline inside the 10-yard line and knocked out of bounds by Dawson Hoffman, but not before a gain of 25 yards. First down and goal upcoming.
Joyner able to just kind of flip it out there. Different arm angle. Quick throw. Nice block downfield. Good job by Darius Rush, giving his fellow receiver and Bailey Hart room to run.
Off up the middle again to appeared to be the freshman. No, that's Mon Denson. Leading returning rusher from last season who's playing in the game, Rico Dowdle. Leading returning rusher overall, but nursing a groin injury, not playing today. Denson, the second leading rusher from the 2018 season.
Coach Muschamp stepping in there, helping his freshman, or Mon Denson rather, dig out some of the turf. It's hard to run with a big patch of sod hanging in your face.
Tell me about it. Joyner, throw over the middle and ripped out and incomplete. Intended for Bailey Hart. That's Dawson Hoffman on the pass breakup there for South Carolina.
Lots of targets for Bailey Hart, but twice now where he's been separated from that football on a red zone throw. Earlier it was Jamel Cook. This time getting the ball raked out. Had a chance to make that reception, and Dawson Hoffman doing a good job getting his hands on the ball and raking the football out.
Redshirt freshman out of Spartanburg, South Carolina. Again, some names you hear today you might not hear in the fall. We're not seeing Ortre Smith today, who's been nursing his recovery from an injury. Handoff there to Mon Denson, who's closes in on the 5-yard line. Jamel Cook on the tackle. Seen a little bit of Shi Smith. Josh Vann, of course, has been on the field. Brian Edwards has not taken an offensive snap. He wore his tennis shoes today, so we don't anticipate seeing him at all the remainder of the game. 4th down coming up. 4th down and 4 at the 5. To carry on Joyner. Redshirt freshman. Eludes a would-be tackler, and that one's intercepted. Jamel Cook, the transfer from the USC out west, former Trojan, and a red zone INT.
Southern Cal, I think they like to refer to it as around here. Jamel Cook, that's the 3rd time here in the red zone where he has stepped up. Had a would-be pick earlier, wasn't able to corral it. Was able to get a couple of pass breakups, though, and now an actual turnover. And as we mentioned, that's something that every defense, of course, feasts on. But partly what propelled South Carolina to its 9-win campaign in 2017 was its ability to turn offenses away in the red zone.
Those interceptions are good news, bad news, as Joyner's back in. Good news, your defense came up with an interception. The bad news, your quarterback threw it. As the quarterback back in, Joyner. The near sideline, that one incomplete.
Maybe Joyner just wanted a fresh set of downs.
Look at those turnovers for South Carolina. Again, a couple of years ago, 18 takeaways. Last year, 16. We talked to DJ Wanham, again, another defensive lineman who you're not going to see play today. But he said the difference he felt was just the lack of energy last year. That pass is behind A.J. Turner and incomplete. Lack of energy he felt last year. We talked to Will Muschamp about that. He said, I would agree with that. In fact, a lot of that might be attributed to Wanham being injured and not being on the field because he's a big energy giver, and he only played in 5 games last year.
And part of it might be quite literally not just a mindset, because you hear about energy that you bring to the stadium, but physically, I think this team wore down. And it was obvious Wanham being injured in the opener versus Coastal Carolina, the ankle injury kept him out of the game. Versus Georgia, missed 5 games there in the middle of the season. When he was able to come back, by then, you've already had to reshuffle what was a thin position group. We mentioned Inigbare, who is a natural outside player, Rick Sandage having to play inside. Guys that were forced in there, and it limited their rotation, just that one injury. And Wanham, when he was able to come back, was a guy that gave them a little bit of depth. You know, Keir Thomas, another guy we're not going to see out here today, very versatile along that defensive front, can play inside, can play outside. A guy that did excellent penetration, Javon Kinlaw, another guy recovering from a hip injury. These are guys that are going to lend a lot of depth up front. And from an energy standpoint, Matt, because you've got bodies, warm bodies that you can throw at that position, it gives you an opportunity to keep that energy level up, especially versus tempo offenses like the one we're seeing right now.
Good use of the word, the phrase warm bodies. We had Muschamp talking to him yesterday in the meetings, and he used the phrase competitive depth.
Yeah.
And he said we are getting close. We've got 8 to 9 to 10 on the defensive front that we can rotate in and out, which is huge. So we're just getting close to that point where when we first walked in, we were 1.5 people deep, and you can't sit people. That adds to accountability when you got guys behind you that you know can take your job.
Well, look, if there's nobody else to go to, then you're not choosing who to play. You're just playing the guys you got, right? You want to have guys that you get to start out on the football field, not guys that you have to start. And because of the recruiting efforts, because of that competitive depth, that's what kind of sharpens the sword for Saturdays. Is it difficult enough to win a starting position, to earn playing time by the time Saturday rolls around? And right now, from a talent standpoint, this program's as close as it's ever been.
3rd down, Joyner deep ball. That pass intended for Chad Terrell. That one is incomplete. Israel Ukwamu on the defense there, the 6'4" corner who's just got NFL potential written all over him. So a 4th down. And that'll bring on Parker White. They're going to kick a field goal going the other way.
Because of course they are. You know why they're doing it? Because the head coach said so.
You can write the rules.
Parker White, a little bit of a rocky afternoon so far. A chance to close out the first half on a high note.
Parker White from 37 yards. It'll be a very special day for Mr. White as he puts that one through, and Will Muschamp says, hold on just a second. As we look up at the video board for a special presentation, check this out. Parker White officially on scholarship 6 months to the day from when he kicked that game winner against Missouri on this very wet field. Now we're in April, the sun is shining, and he's on scholarship.
That's exactly right. You go back to that game-winning field goal. I think that's where the campaign to be on scholarship.
Give me that,
that's
Scully.
Right.
Give it to me. And
3
6
for
months
3,
later,
boys.
he's got it.
That's right. Yeah, the coaches knew it. I tell you what, these never get old. And this was a really special way. Good job by Coach Muschamp.
Brought the parents down onto the field and everything.
That was well executed. Jake Bentley, his roommate, good buddy, standing right there to enjoy that moment with his pal. Parker White, a guy that they need him. They're going to need him to play a big role this coming season versus the schedule that they've got.
Well, stay tuned at the half. Got an Auburn Final Four preview as they get set to take on Virginia, and a look ahead to CFB 150 as we celebrate the 150th year anniversary of college football. Stay tuned for more from the South Carolina Football Black and Garnet Spring Game here in Columbia. We'll be right back. It's 10-3, Garnet leading to Black. Congratulations, Parker White. 7-3, Garnet with the lead over the Black. Parker White, the last field goal he made here in the spring game wasn't worth any points, but it was worth tens of thousands of dollars as he was just put on scholarship. The walk-on now a scholarship athlete here at South Carolina. Matt Chickalone and Matt Stinchcomb. Look, when it comes to evaluation tools and how you evaluate a team and how a team is doing, spring game might be
top of the list.
I thought you'd lower that
for
hand.
irrelevance.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But based on what we've seen here in the first half, what can you glean from South Carolina?
Well, we talk about the position that a lot of eyes were going to be on, the backup quarterback. Saw plenty from DeCarrion Joyner as well as Helinski. And, at times, both have acquitted themselves well. I think Helinski especially has had an opportunity to really air it out. Joyner demonstrating his ability to make plays with his legs on the one touchdown scoring drive, able to convert a 3rd and long with his legs and then convert a 4th and 10 in the air. So you see that duality that he can bring to the position. And, of course, Helinski, as a new entrant, an early enrollee, doing a really good job, I think. Partly what you can evaluate in these games is how are they operating the offense. We're not going to be doing a whole lot of stuff out here. And because of that, I think both quarterbacks have done a pretty good job of managing how they operate.
What's the head coach think down on the field? Will Muschamp with Taylor Davis. Taylor?
Thanks, guys. Coach, we had the opportunity to see a good bit of both DeCarrion and Ryan at quarterback. What stood out to you about those two?
Well, the command of running the offense. We had no procedure issues. They got on the ball and really functioned extremely well. We got to work on some decision-making at some times, but, we've brought the corner several times. The receivers didn't hop the route the correct way. Both quarterbacks were right in all those situations. So I've been very pleased with how we've just managed the offense.
Now, when we spoke with you yesterday, you said if you had it your way, the score would be 53-51. Now, we're not quite there yet, but what could happen in the second to get you closer?
Well, we're moving the football. We've got to capitalize on some scoring opportunities in the red zone. If we were able to do that, take care of the ball a little bit better on the one situation there.
All right, Coach, appreciate it.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Taylor. Thank you, Will Muschamp, for the time. And again, 7-3 right now, the lead. South Carolina leading the Gamecocks. Back to Will Muschamp and where he's been, what he's done. Started out his career, of course, at Georgia as a defensive back in the early 90s. LSU defensive coordinator under Nick Saban. Auburn defensive coordinator. Was at Florida as a head coach, and now at South Carolina. I like the phrase that he used in our meetings yesterday, just about that competitive depth. And I asked him, how close are you? You've been around some championship programs. How close are you to where you think this program can be? And he was honest. He said, I think we're close. I think we're getting there. You buy that?
I think so. Now, whether that will be manifested in wins and losses versus the schedule that South Carolina is facing, that has yet to be determined. You're talking about facing 3 conference champions, South Carolina, Clemson, Alabama, and then, of course,
App State.
You're picking up Texas A&M out of the West as your permanent rival, App State, the Sun Belt Conference champion. That said, because of the talent, the way that they've been able to recruit, I think that they do have an opportunity to continue to be better and improve over the course of a season. A lot of times when you're really top-heavy, your best players, they wear down, sure. But the other piece of it, too, is that they realize that there's nobody pushing them, and it's not that you take your foot off the gas necessarily. It's just that you don't have that extra motivation, especially the Monday through Friday part of your routine.
Yeah, Will Muschamp said right now it's an AOB mentality. We'll just call it butt on the bench. So we'll call it the BOB mentality, that if you're not performing up to snuff, that there's someone right behind you who can play. I mean, last year he said at one time they had 7 true freshmen playing on the field at the same time at one point. But he had an analogy about pregnancy and how pregnancy hurts. He wouldn't know that, but it hurts, but you get a baby in love at the end. Last year, it hurt what they had to do with those freshmen. But the dividends and the rewards of that, they're going to get this year with that experience.
I refuse to touch any analogy, presuming to know the pain of childbirth.
Will Muschamp went for it, and so those are his words. You can tweet at him if you'd like to agree or disagree.
Longer gestational period, I think. 9 months versus 3.
Well,
but
including spring ball.
Yeah, the point is well taken in that there's no doubt that they've got a lot of qualities that they will be able to realize this year because of that game experience for those freshmen that were forced to take some very meaningful, if not starting reps for this team.
We got a live kickoff in the first half and a live kickoff in the second half. Daniel Fennell with the return there to the 25. Well, we got a tour of it yesterday, the Long Family Football Operations Center. $50 million following the creation of the Gamecock Park, Spurrier Indoor Practice Facility, 110,000 square feet adjacent to the Jerry and Steve Spurrier Indoor Practice Facility and outdoor practice fields. They've got everything you need, whether it's training tables, weight room, even a recording studio. Will Muschamp says they got cooking classes 4 nights a week there, as well as steam room. Tavares Robinson said he doesn't go into the hyperbolic chamber. He's too claustrophobic as he's got as he loves what they've got here. And he talked to these former players. It has been terrific. And Ray Tanner, the athletic director here at South Carolina, former baseball coach here with the Gamecocks. That facility is pretty impressive. What did you think when you first walked into the final edition when it was completed?
Well, it was a wow factor. I mean, I think that's where we wanted it to end up, and we need guys like my right over here playing on this field in our facility. So it's been phenomenal, and Coach Muschamp got here at a perfect time to put his fingerprints on that facility. He got it just like he wanted it: efficiency, effectiveness, and what a great place for a student athlete to play football.
That was something that I thought was interesting about this space was it doesn't just have that pop. It doesn't just look great. And it does. But functionally speaking, and the football program has had to kind of engineer around the existing facilities for a while. But the fact that it's so practical, it seems as if it's going to be really helpful in season, not just from a recruiting standpoint.
Well, I think it will. And again, Coach Muschamp, I mean, I didn't know that he had such a architectural background. I knew he could coach football, but I mean, he had it set from where they come into the building to the flow. I mean, I think they're saving like 15 minutes a day in just the way they go throughout the building. So it's a great addition to our football program. You saw the practice field, the indoor. So a great asset to bring young men in here to play football.
In the indoor pools and rehab, even had little sets of stairs for if student athletes, God forbid, are on crutches and have to learn how to use them. I mean, it's just, you've thought of everything. He said when he talked to you about this process, you didn't give him carte blanche, but you just said, figure out what you want, let me know, and let's do it. And he seemed to really appreciate the delegation of allowing him to, as you said, figure out what he wanted.
Well, he dug in, and honestly, I didn't. He's a football coach, so I didn't know how much he would engage. I thought he would probably attend some meetings and throw out some input. This guy was engaged. I mean, he had his fingerprints on it, and the only thing I said, hey, it's a football building. Let's don't do too many toys.
Right.
We do have the Darius Rucker studio, and we have a little game room in there, but basically it's a building where you develop as a football player.
As I understand it, have you seen the presence from the players, the coaches, the ability for them to interact more because of this facility and the fact that it's so centralized?
Well, I think it is. And, you come to a facility, you go to practice, you do your work, you do your film work, you meet with your coaches, but then you stay. It's not where you say, okay, it's over, I'm out. You stay around. Our food that we provide, Kristen Coggins, our nutrition area, is awesome. It's a one-stop shop.
So do y'all have different grooming policies now that you have a barbershop available at all
I didn't
times?
mention the barbershop. You had to bring that up.
Yeah, I mean, that's in there.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. I mean, you gotta feel good about the way you look. You
gotta look good to play good,
yeah,
right,
of course.
Coach?
Yeah, you gotta look the part. So it's good.
Jake Bentley to Josh Van there as we take a look at the barbershop. I asked Will Muschamp if he's going to get his haircut there anytime He said, no, I'm a creature of habit. I got my own things.
Yeah, well, you know what? I got a feeling that a couple of our players are going to get him in there one day. So we'll see how that goes.
See, I want to know, so when does your album drop? Because I know you've been in the recording studio.
Have you been cutting tracks?
Listen, I love
Billy Ray
Rucker.
Cyrus can do it.
Well, I'm a country guy, and I love Darius Rucker, but they won't let me in there, I can promise you.
With what is it, the auto-tune, Coach? You could sound phenomenal.
Well, maybe I could do that. We could fake it, right?
Sure, of course
we
you
still
could.
do lip sync. Does that work?
Absolutely. Yeah, Milli Vanilli.
It's a good throwback there, Manchester. The interesting thing about it, too, is not only it's not just a luxury, it's a necessity when it comes to recruiting, because every other school can say they don't have what we have, they don't have what we have. Now they can't say that.
True.
With the football program.
And it's one of the things that I've been at this school for 22 years now, and you can talk about dedication, you can talk about commitment, or you can see it and you can feel it. And now the coaches, they don't have to sit down with the young man and his family and say, this is what we'll do. You can feel it and you can see it. So you can take that off the table and just get a young man comfortable and come to the University of South Carolina.
Well, Muschamp said, where you sleep, eat, and train will be as nice as anywhere in the country. And after walking through that is hard to disagree, right? Well, we'll let you get back and continue to evaluate the roster here.
Well, listen,
this spring game.
I just know when it goes in the end zone.
That's the most important part.
It is. Well, thank you, guys. Good to have you here.
Yeah, congratulations on
Thank
everything.
you.
Best of luck to you.
Good to
Trey
see you.
Tanner, Athletics Director here at South Carolina, here at the Garnet and Black spring game. And again, that football complex, Long Family Football Operations Center, 110,000 square feet. The majestic beauty. Jake Bentley is still in at quarterback. We said he would take probably the first series of the first half and the first series of the second half. And this series has gone on quite a while. As the senior quarterback with a handful of completions here on this drive, closing in on the red zone. We'll see if they can end the drive with a touchdown.
Unsurprisingly, a guy that gets in there, and we talked about stability, consistency, the performance at quarterback, and Coach Muschamp mentioned, so what are the two things that stood out with the backup quarterbacks? Was their ability to manage this offense. Nobody's going to be able to do that better than number 19 with the amount of snaps that he's been able to take here for the Gamecocks.
Fourth on the all-time career passing yardage list as he throws to the end zone, and that is complete. Deebo Samuel on the field, taking a pass from his former quarterback.
Yeah, it looked like a misread early on. Didn't know quite where Jake was going with that one, and of course Deebo did a much better job of making this reception than what we saw a year ago from Michael Scarnecchia. Trying to connect with Steve Spurrier. Samuel, with a little bit more experience doing this sort of thing, brought it right in. How many times have we seen that connection in South Carolina football history?
25 yards for the score. Sure, give it to him. Bentley to Samuel, a connection they'll miss here at Columbia. And a player that's going to hear his name called early on in that draft, this man, Deebo Samuel, who is projected as a late first, early second. And when his name is called, I want us to have this tape ready for Mel Kiper Jr. to analyze. Touchdown, Deebo Samuel here at the spring game.
He's just so elusive. I mean, you never saw him even come off the line. It's like he just materialized in the end zone. And that's a special talent. There are NFL teams that really want that sort of thing. If you could just emerge in the end zone. There's a couple times this year where it certainly looked that way, and he'd come out of nowhere and make a play over the middle, a fearless player, an explosive playmaker in both offensively and special teams.
Tell you what, if they changed the rules and allowed guys to just come in from the sideline, that'd be a great advantage.
Imagine what it would do to the game.
So pass to Jay Urich, who's off and running to the 30, to the 20, to the 10. Touchdown! Jay Urich, listed as a quarterback, playing receiver today, and getting into the end zone. 62 yards for the touchdown.
Turns out Jay's been playing out of position. He's had a pretty good day. He's had several targets, even in the first half, and then breaking tackles and showing some breakaway speed, even with angles in the secondary. Urich did a great job getting down that sideline.
Alexander Wozniak now in there for the point after. As it is up, and it is good. You know, when Deebo Samuel catches a touchdown, you gotta answer. Jay Urich was able to do that and then some. Long touchdown. It's 14-9. Garnet over. Matt Stinchcomb here, 14-9. Garnet over the Black here as the Gamecock faithful getting a sneak peek in their 2019 South Carolina Gamecocks. Jay Urich got most of the yardage here on this catch, 62 yards for the touchdown. Longest play of the game, obviously, answering the Deebo Samuel touchdown.
Not to be outdone. We thought it was Brian Edwards, but it looks like Jay Urich announcing his candidacy as the next Deebo.
Ryan Helinski back in at quarterback after a nice first half and a nice touch pass there to Josh Vann, the sophomore out of Tucker High School in Georgia. Now near the 40-yard line, gain of 24.
Nice touch is right. Another one of those plays where backup quarterbacks are thrilled that they aren't live. Otherwise, Helinski probably picking himself up off the turf. Johnson was applying that pressure, but good touch.
Helinski, a quick pass to Shi Smith, who gets the first down, fumbles the football, but they're going to rule him out inside the 35-yard line.
We mentioned Deebo, Brian Edwards, who we've not seen here today, but will certainly be a cornerstone of this offense. And then Shi Smith is just lethal in that slot receiver position and proved to be one of the bigger playmakers in the passing game in 2018.
3 receivers set here for Helinski as he goes to Smith again, and that's another first down. We talked to the guys about the tempo yesterday and about, Jake Bentley put it really well. He said the biggest advantage an offense can have, because all 11 guys on defense can move before the snap if they'd like to. But the advantage an offense can have is getting to the line quickly. And you're not necessarily calling a play or snapping it right away, but you're getting to the line and forcing the defense to do something.
Right, yeah, they don't have to know that. They have to be ready to play right away. Maybe you just want to see their initial alignment. You can dictate how quickly that ball in the next play is initiated. That is the advantage for the offense. Only one guy can move, but you get to pick it.
Denson back to Davis. Davis now trying to avoid a tackler, and that would-be tackler turns into an actual tackler as he is wrapped up there by number 52, Kingsley Enigbare.
And Enigbare didn't get the memo here. Coach Muschamp's trying to put up some points. A little bit of razzle-dazzle. And Enigbare decided he would just make the play. Good job tracking upfield and then showing some really good ability in redirecting. Enigbare, a guy that we already talked about it. You know, a young guy, forced to play, forced to put on pounds. He stripped it right back off. He's done a great job of introducing some more explosive playmaking ability along that edge of the South Carolina front.
Helinski with the deep ball to the end zone. Nearly a one-handed grab by Shi Smith. Jamias Williams there to help knock that ball away. Tomorrow noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, we'll have the big series finale between 4th-ranked Vandy and number 7 Georgia at Foley Field in Athens. SEC baseball also available on the ESPN app, so you can watch anywhere. South Carolina, of course, coming off a 7-6 season. On the football field, 5 of those 6 losses were to teams that finished in the top 16 of the AP poll. As Helinski drops back under duress, rolls out to his right near the 30. Going to tuck this one and run. Looks like he might have a flag on the field as he picks up the first down. We'll see what that marker is. We were talking about this, Matt, that you could have a better team and have a similar, if not worse, record. If you're a South Carolina fan, obviously that's hearsay. You know, heresy at some point. You don't want that to happen this year.
Play results in a first down.
But when you look at that schedule for 2019, there are not a lot of off weeks.
No, and we've already hit on it. It makes all the sense in the world that you kind of have to see through that. Can you see beyond the win-loss column, which we all know ultimately is the evaluator for the success of a program, but not necessarily the status of that program.
Helinski here in the red zone, and a nice touch pass inside the 5 to Shi Smith. Smith with a few receptions here, gain of 10, first down and goal coming up in that schedule for 2019. You could have 5 of the preseason top 10. You could have the preseason 1, 2, and 3 teams in there, where you got Georgia, Alabama, Clemson always on the schedule. As South Carolina nearing the end zone, Mount Denson, it appears he's in, and he is, for the touchdown rush.
You know, that Missouri game, on the heels of Alabama, on the road, a Kelly Bryant-led offense, a dynamic playmaker, the Clemson transfer, eligible to play for the Tigers, and a team that South Carolina narrowly beat a season ago. And this is, you know, look, don't overlook Charleston Southern. I'm not saying that there's an upset there, but that offense, they get after your defenses. They try to cut block a lot. It's just something where you want to make it out of there healthy. That's just in week 2. Those first 2 weeks for South Carolina are crucial because there are no gimmies on that schedule.
Eddie Buckhouse, the redshirt freshman, puts that one through. 8 plays, 65 yards. Denson, the 4th. Black with a 16-14 lead over Garnet here in the spring game. Let's go down on the field with Taylor Davis.
Thanks, guys. Here with offensive coordinator Brian McClendon. Now, Coach, we know Jake Bentley to be the guy, but you're getting to see your backups and DeCarrion and Ryan in a game-like scenario. What strengths do you see in those two?
You really like to see how they handle the moment, how they handle the adrenaline running. They've been put in a lot of these situations before, but this is a different format for them. But it's really good to see those guys just kind of handle it, be able to take charge and kind of run the offense and from there. So some of it's been good, some of it's not so good. But not just those guys. I mean, offensively, we're playing with a lot of guys that right now have been backups. So they're getting a lot of meaningful reps now. And so, like I said, it's been a lot of good, a lot of bad, and a lot in between.
Now, tempo is a part of your offense that you're continuing to implement. When you look at your guys during spring practice, how are they continuing to adjust to that?
It's an ever-going thing, and just being able to go in and out of tempos is something that you strive to do. So to be able to go fast, slow it down a little bit, still get some run checks and everything else in there, or protection checks. But most of all, man, you want to be able to have the illusion that you're doing it no matter what. So now you can kind of go ahead and get a defensive call in. So now those guys can kind of see what's going on a little bit. But I think for the most part, most of the guys have been handling it pretty well. And we'll see. Still have some time left.
Now, probably one of your most stacked positions on this team is at wide receiver. Replacing a guy like Deebo Samuel is no easy task, but how are those guys responding to that?
Well, you never replace a guy like Deebo. And so what you try to do is try to find 2 or 3 guys that can kind of fill those roles. I think it's going to expand some roles for some other guys, for some of those other top guys. Brian Edwards, who hadn't been out, and Shy's in a very limited role today, and didn't want to get him too many reps because of some stuff that he has going on. But, it's going to expand some of those other guys and see what other guys can do. So I think you have to just do a good job of kind of putting a lot of guys in a lot of different situations, see how they respond. But for the most part, both of those guys got to go out there and they got to play fast and make plays, because that's what he did.
All right, Coach, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks to Brian McClendon for the time. Joseph Charlton with a nice punt down inside the 10, a 56-yard punt. But a great year last year. School's all-time leader in punt average at 44 yards a punt. That was 56. Tonight, 11:30 Eastern, 10:30 Central. SEC Now team will be back with more Final Four coverage with live reports from Minneapolis and Auburn. You can always watch on the ESPN app as well. And unlike that picture, they will be in full color. Dari Noka, Peter Burns and Company, Matt Schick along with Matt Stinchko here in Columbia, South Carolina. Again, back to the Gamecock headlines. Again, 16 starters back, 7 on each side of the ball. We saw the punter, Joseph Charlton, put a nice one out there. And then, of course, kicker, Parker, who's on scholarship after his kick earlier today. 6 opponents in the AP Top 16 that finished that way. Clemson, Bama, Florida, Georgia, A&M. It's just a murderer's row, and you just wonder how this team is going to handle a schedule like that when you're considering Will Mustard's lost 10 straight games against ranked opponents. There are a lot of things working against them, but with experience and depth, I wonder if they could sneak a game or two of those out.
And they have been competitive
Yes.
in a lot of
Yes.
those games. And you think about, we're talking about one-score defeats among those teams that they faced a season ago. The game that I think stood out to me, and if you're going to find a proxy within the SEC and certainly the SEC East, it would be Kentucky. You know, where are they relative to the Wildcat program, a team that has really challenged Will Muschamp in his time here, 0-3 versus that East Division rival, and really was kind of a turning point from a season ago in their matchup versus the Wildcats. Where are they? Obviously, they want to beat the East. That's one of the things that Jake Bentley talked about, wanting to come back. They want to be state champs. That's obviously a nod towards Clemson and their record versus the Tigers, but also if you're going to be able to ascend the ranks in the East Division, you got to find ways to get victories over the top-end programs, Kentucky being one of those, contending for a division title up until that contest versus Georgia late in the season.
That went into the chest of Shi Smith and then received by Shi Smith, a gain of 15 yards from Dakarrion Joyner. And that'll be a first down. Mentioned you got 3 reigning conference champs on that schedule with Bama, Clemson, and App State. I think Jake Bentley casually said, "Who scheduled App State?"
That's right.
It was.
Good thing Coach Satterfield went to Louisville, right? To take the edge off of that one, Sun Belt Conference champions from a season ago.
And breaking free is Kevin Harris crossing midfield to the 45. And again, a young running back, a true freshman that they're looking to see what they have out of him. And the 5'10", 235-pound bowling ball is rolling.
Kid's yoked. I don't know if he worked out at Orange Theory before he got here at South Carolina. Right down the road. Look at that guy. Looks like he's been curling cinder blocks.
He was 17. Did you work out at Orange Theory? 152 yards per game last year, 91st in the FBS. Their offensive numbers improved from the previous season, but they're still bottom half in the SEC. They still got to make some improvements there on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, you got to go back, I think, to what Marcus Lattimore said. He's got his finger on the pulse, is that you can't hurt yourself. It's your self-inflicted wounds. The mistakes when you're in scoring position, contentious games, giving away points. You know, a red zone turnover, that's easily a 7-point swing. It's not just a denial there, but it's a huge momentum shifter as well in the game.
We'll do it for the third quarter. Is Kevin Harris with a nice game. Nearing a first down. Second down and short upcoming. Fourth quarter straight ahead here in Columbia.
PPV.
South Carolina spring game, fans, young and old, having some fun. 16-14, Black with the lead over Garnet as we head to the fourth quarter and we head down to the field to Taylor Davis.
Thanks. Coach, defensively, you've said you have a lot of competitive depth, especially at the line. In an opportunity like today, you really get to see that. How beneficial will that be moving forward?
Well, it's really good for me to be able to see big guys coming in and out of the game, and a bunch of them. So we haven't had that luxury in our first 3 years, but we're getting where we need to be.
As you wrap up spring practice here today, what points of emphasis will you carry into summer and fall?
Well, leave no doubt. Leave no doubt about your commitment to this football team, your work ethic, and what the things you need to do to improve as a player, which collectively helps us improve as a team.
Leave no doubt. We like that. Thanks, Coach.
All right, y'all take care.
Matt?
Thank you, Taylor. While you were talking, Deshaun Fedwick with a nice run as he crosses the 20, and they are once again in the red zone. That's Dakarrion Joyner now, resuming the quarterback duties with a first down. As we enter the fourth quarter, Matt Chick along with Matt Stinchcomb. Again, get to see some new young faces here. We also have some new coaches on the sidelines this year. A couple of tweaks that Will Muschamp made with a new running backs coach and a new defensive line coach.
Yeah, Bobby Bentley, the dad of Jake Bentley, was previously the running backs coach, slid over to tight ends to make room for Thomas Brown. came in from Miami, former player in the conference, very familiar with it. He and Bobby Bentley both with a lot of history in the conference, so kind of reshuffling that offensive staff just a little bit. So yet another tweak. A couple of carries for Thomas Brown's Charges, or one of them anyway, and Deshaun Fenwick with a physical run and back-to-back carries. That time tackled by A.J. Turner, so you got a little running back on running back crime out there in the space. You know, look, they've been able to advance not only their recruiting efforts from a personnel standpoint, but the staff as well. John Scott coming in to be the new defensive line coach, making these tweaks heading into year 4 from a staff standpoint as well.
And John Scott,
Offside.
the coach for Texas Tech under Cliff Kingsbury.
Results in a first down.
Coached at Arkansas under Chad Morris as well. And now the defensive line coach here. Flag there, an offside call. Well, coming up in about 6 minutes here on SEC Network, the LSU spring game. Then we'll wrap it up with the Ole Miss's Grove Bowl in Oxford. Remember, both streaming live on the ESPN app, so you can watch anywhere. Kevin Harris, the true freshman, up the middle. Alex DeLoach on the tackle, the sophomore out of Somerville. Second down and goal. Carryon Joyner at quarterback. 3 receivers set. Handoff again to Harris. Stopped near the line of scrimmage.
Some shots being delivered down there, though. Some necks getting shortened. Guys running downhill. That time, Ernest Jones. Talked about him earlier. He and Harris with a pretty violent collision in the hole as the offense is trying to cram one more in before this game goes off air. They'll finish off without us.
No TJ Brunson today, who's recovering from meniscus surgery. As Harris trying to find his way to the end zone, just shy. Derek Boykins there on the tackle. No Brunson means Ernest Jones has got a lot of time this spring at that Mike position in the linebacking core. 8.5 minutes to go, roughly. 4th down and goal. Handoff to Harris. Can he find the end zone? He cannot. Boykins with the stop out of Concord, North Carolina.
Really well defended. I mean, it's not all about the points in the offense. Look at this collision in the hole. And Derek Boykins just coming up and filling. We talked about Harris. That is a load with a head of steam, albeit a freshman at that.
That's freshman on freshman right there. Guys trying to assert themselves and make a name for themselves here.
Defensive-minded coach, and yeah, he wants points, but he's got to like that as well. It's a couple different times today, despite the 4th down attempts. Defense finding ways to get stops, but when they're in scoring position.
A defensive coach like Will Muschamp's got to be in a glass case of emotion in a game like this. You want to score, but at the same time, you like that defense to make a stop. That LSU spring game coming up. Ryan Helinski remains in at quarterback. Helinski to maybe the MVP of the game today. Jay Urich, Jordan Villafane with the stop, and Urich over 100 yards receiving today, along with a 62-yard touchdown.
Is it fair to say that Jay Urich has had the best day at quarterback at receiver?
Listed as a quarterback, playing today at receiver, took a few snaps at quarterback earlier as well. 7 grabs for $111 and a touchdown.
We've seen a lot of versatility. Evan Henson is out there, a basketball player at South Carolina, is taking some snaps at tight end. A.J. Turner with not only some offensive carries, but out there as a defensive back, made the tackle on Deshaun Fenwick on that previous red zone possession. And then Jay Urich, the only guy who's demonstrated ability to maybe throw a pass to himself.
Urich again. Gain at 12. Villafane again on the stop. But we're seeing some nice balls here from Helinski. Again, Ryan Helinski, top 5 quarterback, top 100 prospect in the ESPN 300. Think about the recruiting efforts that Will Muschamp and his staff have made. 3 straight top 20 classes. And don't forget about Zach Pickens, who's a top 20 player, top 5 defensive end for South Carolina as well, an early enrollee as the handoff there goes to Slade Carroll, number 33. And Jaquez Sorrells, who's not on campus yet, he enrolls in May. He's another highly touted defensive lineman as well. Jay Urich, again, 8 catches, 113 yards and a touchdown. And there's Pickens, highly touted, number 20 in the ESPN 300, number 4 defensive end. Real first national guy that they've been able to recruit from in-state since Jadeveon Clowney.
And you think about that epic run that South Carolina went on, 3 straight years, 11-win seasons, and it was the Stephon Gilmores, the Marcus Lattimores, the Jadeveon Clowneys. They got those top-end players. Pickens, one of those type of talents, a guy that can maybe change things for that front 7 for South Carolina.
That's it. Pickens, Sorrells could be real key cogs in that front 7 for years to come. And breaking free is Slade Carroll into the end zone for the touchdown.
With the carry and touchdown.
The redshirt junior out of Lexington High School here in South Carolina. Walk on putting that one into the end zone.
It's a good way to put a punctuation mark on this one. Last time they kind of grinded their way into the end zone. This time the offense with an explosive run. Slade Carroll able to notch 6 points for his team.
From 25 yards out. Thanks for watching the South Carolina Black and Garnet spring game. You can see continued coverage on SEC Network Plus, as it's about to be 21-16. Garnet with the lead on the Black. Coming up next here on SEC Network, it's the